Hey everyone, welcome back to another Godzilla figure review. I'm Creature Hunt Guy coming at you from Monster Island, and today we are reviewing none other than King Caesar, the standard version. So first let's take a look at the tag. This was one of the last standard Showa figures to be made by Bandai, and you can see his picture here of King Caesar from the movie Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. You got the old-fashioned sticker of Godzilla right there, and all the other stuff on the back. And so it's a single card, like the older ones were. And yeah, so let's take a look at the paint job here real quick. So you got, let's get a good zoom in here. You got gold fur, like he was in the movie, over on his head, down on his neck, and on his chest. Also on his shoulders as well. Then also on his tail. Then you've got basically the rest of him is this brown sort of light dirt brown sort of color, just all over. And they don't really paint as much on here, but it's an old figure, so you can let it off the hook. But as for the claws, you can see they're sort of spray painted on the toes, silver, and also on the claws. Now, as for detail. Well, detail isn't all that bad on this figure, especially for an old one. It does what it needs to do, and that's show what the monster basically looked like in the movie. So you got his weird looking scales that he has along his legs, and down here onto on his shin. And then also on his forearms here as well. And also on his stomach. And also on his back. So you've got these strange scales all over the place, which, you know, is good. And they also include the very important noticeable curly cues on his joints, which I always thought was weird, but that is what they got here. And now on his face, well, it's a good face. You can definitely tell it's King Caesar. The ears are a bit short, but that's fine. And get a look at his inside of his teeth. Surprisingly, the teeth are individually sort of molded out in here, just a little bit, and got the canines here. They're not completely painted, which you know, it looks a little sloppy, but not too bad. You can let them off there. Then you got his crown deal, and his nose, big ape nose there. And you got the little wart things on his head, and all that good stuff. So yeah, he's good in detail as well. Now, as for articulation. Well, basic articulation. Don't want to be too rough with a figure like this, because it's so old. But the head can sort of move. Mine's a bit stiff. I don't know about the others, but it can kind of move back and forth like this. So we can just go, nuh-uh, it wasn't me. And then you got the arms, which go all the way around if you wanted to make them do that. Both of them. And then you got the legs, which also kind of move a little bit too. But like I said, mine's a bit stiff. And then you got the tail, which moves all the way around too. So, wouldn't know why he'd need to have a completely 360-degree rotating tail, but, you know, in case you ever need to do that, that's fine. So, yeah, you got good basic articulation. The paint scheme on this one is just a bit bland, in my opinion. It just doesn't really stand out. Compared to some of the other standards that Bandai produced around this time, it just looks a little blah, you know, just not very special, but it's definitely an essential figure, and, you know, it doesn't do a bad job showing off what King Caesar looked like in the movie. Now, as for size comparison, well, Bandai never had up until this time, and never has since, made a standard size Godzilla 74, which I'll admit is kind of a sad thing. But we do have the Showa version of Anguirus right here. So you can kind of see how well they match up together. And really, they never really showed what Anguirus was like up next to King Caesar, so you gotta just kind of use your imagination here. But to me, it looks like King Caesar is just a bit small, because Anguirus is really quite big. But yeah, so Yeah, it looks a little large. And so it may be a bit demeaning, but as for standard size Godzillas, well, I'll take out my trusty Godzilla Final Wars here. And yeah, he pretty much dwarfs King Caesar here. But that's okay because, you know, they're from about 25 years separate, 35 years separating them, so, you know, that's cool. But, yeah. So, what are my thoughts about King Caesar here? Well, I'm going to give him a 3 out of 5. He's not bad, I'll admit that, because he does represent the kaiju that he's meant to, and that's always an important fact. But it's kind of bland, just like, oh, I'm brown, I'm kind of boring, you know, not exactly huge, not exactly too small, so there's nothing really unique about him. He's just a big furry monster. The boogeyman, basically. So I'll give him a 3 out of 5. And he's not a necessary figure to have for a collection. But if you do like the movie Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla and the sequel as well, he's an important character. Because he didn't really do anything, except maybe team up with Godzilla for a couple minutes, maybe. But he still is in the movie, so he's an important guy to have around, maybe. Hopefully I'll do a review on Mechagodzilla 74 soon. And I'll be able to pair them up in size then. But, so yeah, just King Caesar, yes or no. You're not going to have to pay too much for him as far as old-fashioned Bandai standard size figures go. So, yeah, get him if you want him, don't if you don't, that's fine too. Anyway, I'm Creature Hunt Guy. This is King Caesar coming at you from Monster Island, and I'll see you next time.